I think fertility is a bit of a mystery topic because it's one that's just ticking along through our lives that we don't necessarily take much notice of or really properly understand unless we seem to have a need to. So there's a lot of mystery around it. But in a sense, it's what defines us as male and female, our reproductive organs. And so it's really important that people properly understand how those reproductive organs work. And we don't often get the information that we need. So there's definitely a lack of comprehensive education in the school system to help people make good decisions and make good choices regarding their fertility, and if they hope to have children one day as well. So I think there's also a lack of education about the negative impacts on one's fertility, what those things can be and how to avoid those things that can be a negative impact on fertility. There's definitely, in my observation over the years, a lot of lack of information about how to take care of one's fertility, to look after it, to preserve it, to protect it for the future if people hope to conceive. And it's not something that you might think about when you're 14 or 15 or in the teen years, but it's something very important for many people and many couples, many women as they get older. And then there's a lot of people who are having problems with fertility issues. And that's poorly dealt with as well through, generally speaking, through the mainstream medical approach, because we've become such a society that wants quick fix solutions. When fertility issues do present, often people aren't given comprehensive assessment to treat those problems properly, or they're just quickly put on the treadmill of, go for IVF or go for one of the artificial reproductive technologies to help you conceive, when actually that's not fixing the problem. It's certainly not finding the problem and looking for it, but it's not fixing the problem either. So it's an area, as you can see, there's so many aspects to it, but it's poorly dealt with overall, I think. And I often observe that when I see clients coming for education in this area, and they come from all walks of life: single women, women in relationships, married women, couples who are trying to conceive or trying to avoid pregnancy using some natural system because they've tried all these other artificial systems that haven't worked for them. But overall, there's a huge gaping hole in education. I think that's fair to say. So, what is fertility? It's our capacity to conceive and give birth. Obviously, you've got male fertility and female fertility, so all the various organs that are involved. Male fertility is pretty straightforward, as we know. Pretty much, the sperm are produced in the testicles and they travel up through the vas deferens, down through the urethra to the outside of the body. And that's as straightforward as it can be, pinned down to. Obviously, males can have problems with their fertility as well. Sperm production, the count of the sperm, problems with the motility of the sperm, issues around low sperm count. So there are definitely ways that men can have their fertility impacted. That's a whole topic in itself. But generally speaking, it's straightforward. Whereas women, our systems are so complex compared to male fertility. We've got the uterus, the tubes, the ovaries either side that regulate the hormones that regulate the menstrual cycle. You've got the cervix, the vagina, the cervical canal, where the main sign of the woman's fertility is produced, which is her cervical mucus, which most women know nothing about. And of course, you can't get pregnant in the absence of mucus. So understanding that mucus is the main sign of a woman's fertility is absolutely key to a woman understanding her fertility, her cycles, her fertile window, and using that information accordingly. But the mucus is a sign of the hormones being produced in different levels. So it's like an external sign of an interior production of hormones. And it's amazing how the woman's body is so complex and designed in such a magnificent way with all that complexity. It's even more complex than that. That's just a quick bite. But when it comes to people having problems getting pregnant, believe it or not, despite male fertility being so straightforward and women being so complex, a third of the reason why couples can't conceive is because of a male factor reason, a third is a female factor reason, and the other third is about a third is a combined issue. So it's always interesting. I always find that point interesting, that the complexity still doesn't mean that most of the time that's why couples can't conceive when there's a fertility issue. There's so much that we need to understand as females about our hormones, about our hormone health, taking care of our health in terms of hormones, right from when we start menstruating until menopause. But often hormone health is something we don't think about, we don't do anything about. Cyclical fertility happens because of the changes in the hormone throughout the menstrual cycle, which is what most women are not really taught. You might get a little bit when you're in high school about the basic anatomy and physiology of the reproductive system. You might get a little bit of information about the basics of cyclical fertility, but really it's just a fraction of what women and couples and men need to understand about how fertility works, because it's not rocket science, but it does take some robust, proper information and education to learn it properly. And essentially, the menstrual cycle is the window where the bleeding days occur. There's days of dryness and infertility that follow that. Then there's the window in the middle of the month somewhere where ovulation happens, where the mucus is produced, where there's like an advance indicator to the woman that she's about to ovulate, which is her mucus days. And then there's the rest of the month, which is what we call the post-peak phase, where essentially it's dry. And that's the simple version of cyclical fertility. But every woman can learn this information. Every young woman should learn this information, so that women can make better decisions and choices and not necessarily find themselves in difficult positions where they're finding, my goodness, what's going on, or suddenly, how did that happen? If we have an innate understanding of our cycles, we will definitely make better choices for the future. The pharmaceutical industry has tried to impact in this particular area of health by manipulating and controlling our fertility. But it's not designed to be manipulated and controlled. Our fertility is designed to work as it's supposed to work during different phases of our life in the way it was created to work. So if we don't manipulate that, and if we work with it, and if we cooperate with that, and when there are issues we find and fix those underlying problems, then we're working in a cooperative way with our fertility. And that's where naprotechnology, which is the medical program that I work with, evolved from, that whole aspect of procreative reproductive potential, optimizing that. Not manipulating it, not controlling it, not synthetically, impacting on it, but embracing that beautiful aspect of our health, which is our fertility.